Hi, everyone. This is Adam from the team here at Parabola. I lead product marketing here, and today we are going to be talking about some prompting best practices. I'm joined by three members of the Parabola team. So we'll give each of you a chance to introduce yourself before we get going here. Brian, you want to kick us off?
Sure. I'm Brian. I lead products over here at Parabola.
Hey,
Isaac?
everybody. My name is Isaac Wyatt. I lead the automation engineering team.
And I'm Zach, engineer on the team.
Awesome. So if you're watching this video, we are assuming that you've had some experience with Parabola so far. Maybe you've already taken Parabola University, and now you're really interested in starting to use Parabola's chat experience to build and troubleshoot and understand flows better using AI, as well as some of our features like the custom transform step. So maybe before we get started, Brian, can you kind of speak to, if you've never used the AI chat in Parabola, what is this and why is it valuable?
Sure. The AI chat in Parabola is a ever-present assistant sidebar alongside your flows. It can help answer general questions about what the tool does or what you might want to use it for, but it's also effective at actually helping you build the flow out. So if you have a use case in mind and you need a little help getting pen to paper, you can just describe what you're looking to build. It might ask you some follow-up questions, or it might just start building it for you. Any errors or issues you hit along the way, you can always ask what's going on, and more often than not, it'll just resolve the issue for you. So it's like having a Parabola expert in your back pocket at all times who you can chat with.
That's awesome. And I think one thing that we've learned is, a lot of people who are experts in operation, supply chain, finance, maybe don't have extensive experience working with AI tools, wouldn't necessarily self-classify as an AI expert. Isaac, you're working with customers all day long. Do you need to be an AI expert to use this chat, or what level of technical understanding do you think is required for this?
You don't have to be an AI expert. And I think the barrier to entry is having had a conversation with a colleague before over Slack or Microsoft Teams. And I think that's probably some of the best advice I can give is whether you're working with our AI chat interface or if you're working with the custom transform step, just describe your process and ask your questions as if you're talking to a colleague. And that's going to be the quickest way to get started.
Amazing. And of course, when you're sending these chats, there's some things you can include that might make your prompt better than others. Zach, would love to hear your perspective, having built CoBuilder. What some of those, maybe your top three tips to include in prompts might be.
Yeah, I mean, I think the other thing to know is the AI can kind of see all the things on your canvas, and so you can get a really good, relevant conversation started if you start by getting your data sources onto the canvas. Um, so yeah, you can do that in the form of chat. You can say, I have data in Google Sheets or this other system or on a file, and the assistant will help you get that into the canvas. And from there, like the information that's in that data will help inform the AI on like what types of use cases you might be working on. So yeah, always recommend getting your data in first and starting to chat about what you want to do with that data once it's there.
Yep, that's awesome. What you just described is basically the difference between, if you're blindfolded and someone asks you to write something, it's really hard. If you can see the data, feel the piece of paper, that's what we're doing with CoBuilder once we load up data. So CoBuilder can be way, way more helpful. And when you're writing these prompts, it's really helpful to be as explicit as possible. Maybe you're saying something like, help me build a sales report broken down by SKU using the last 30 days of data imported from Shopify. What are some of the things that we're doing there? Well, we're explicitly talking about what system we're pulling data from, Shopify. We're describing our use case. We're talking about a sales report. And we're providing some information on the types of columns we need and the date range, right? We're talking about SKUs. We're talking about the last 30 days. So the more specificity you're able to bake into these prompts, the better the results that you're going to get. And before we keep rolling here, Isaac, Brian, would love to hear any other tips you have for people getting started on how to really make the most of these prompts.
All right. I think to your last point, specificity, right? If you think about, telling your colleague to say, generate a report for me, you have no idea what type of report you're going to get back. So think about, right, the input, what type of data do you need in the report? What types of transformations you need to do to get to the underlying metrics? And then what's the output that you want to see? So break it down, be really specific. Think through the goals for your flow sometimes before you actually start chatting. So you actually have the direction and you're able to lead the conversation. where you hope to take it. I think those are two things top of mind. Brian, what do you think from your side?
Yeah, the word that I like to use is precise. Your prompts don't necessarily need to be verbose or long or encapsulate everything, but the more precise they are, the better the outcome is going to be. So if you reduce the use of kind of hand wavy logic or industry jargon, you'll likely get a better result out of the AI sidebar. The other thing you can do is enumerate any edge cases that you have in the same way that you might describe to someone the process that you do to make this happen. There might be some things you need to check, look for duplicates, find this value and check it over there. Any sort of edge cases like that are very useful to give more context to how the flow should be built.
I think one final piece from my side is iterate as you go. You don't have to one shot this prompt for an entire flow. You're going to have a lot of logic as you build out this process. And instead of starting and saying, hey, build this entire thing for me, just kind of take bite-sized pieces as you go. I always like to relate this to like reading or actually building out like an SOP, standard operating procedure. Of course, that entire SOP is going to be a process, but there are going to be bullets and sub bullets as you go. So think about breaking down your process and using each one of those sub bullets as an individual prompt. That's going to be a really nice gradual way to build these out with the AI chat.
Yep, I love it. And so just to round that out, we're talking about prompts that include your specific use case, the data sources you're working with, export formats, really precise details on the logic, specific references to column names, so on and so forth. And, so far in this conversation, we've been talking a lot about this chat experience where maybe I want to say, pull sales from Shopify, and it's actually going to add steps to the canvas, recommend best practices, so on and so forth. The other place that we see natural language being really useful for building with AI is with our custom transform step. Just to show you an example of what this could look like, here is an example of a relatively complex looking flow for a carrier scorecarding flow. This is an example where for all of this logic in the middle, where we're doing complex calculations, joins, so on and so forth, we've actually replaced this entirely with these just two custom transform steps that you see here. So in these steps, we're just describing in plain language how we'd like to manipulate our data, and then we're using AI behind the scenes to translate these instructions into custom code that we then apply against our data set. If you're watching this video, you might be familiar with this already, and I think one of the questions we get a lot is, okay, I'm not getting the results that I wanted, like what do I do now? One thing I'll mention is we are about to add an improve prompt button directly to this step. So Brian, maybe in a world where we have that, in a world where we have CoBuilder, can you speak a little bit about how people can improve on their prompts here?
Yeah, it's a lot of the same tips as working with the sidebar, but obviously we're in a more constrained environment here. This step at the end of the day is going to take your input data and do something to it and then create the output data. So the best thing you can do is describe the output that you want. If you understand the exact process that needs to be taken to create that output, that's even better. So things like looking at this column and then naming that column specifically, writing out the calculations as you might do when you're talking to a colleague, or when you're describing an Excel function or things like that. And then also making note of what the output formats you'd like to have. If you're working with currency, how you want that to look. If you're working with dates, what sort of format you want. Any specificity around input and output formats is going to make a more consistent experience within the step.
Absolutely. And we're really excited to introduce that improve prompt button very soon where you can just click that. And what we're basically doing is just sending your prompt directly to CoBuilder, which is trained on all of these tips that we've shared for improving prompts. So if you're ever in doubt, you're saying, I don't know how to write a prompt, you can just ask Parabola, how do I write a prompt to calculate revenue? And it's going to give you tips and bring you in the right direction to hopefully make that experience feel really seamless. Before we round things out, Isaac, Brian, Zach, any other parting tips, words of wisdom, things we haven't talked about yet?
When in doubt, try it out.
There it is.
That's probably the number one piece of feedback I can give is you're not going to break anything. Everything you do can be undone if it needs to be. So feel free to just get in, and it's an iterative process, right? Try it out and improve it as you go. But yeah, I promise you'll be able to get to where you're trying to go.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you find you're going really deep down what feels like the wrong path on solving a problem, don't be afraid to wipe the conversation history on the sidebar there. you can get a fresh mind on it sometimes. And I find that helps on those like really long problems where you feel like you're stuck on something. Just wiping it and restating the problem oftentimes like gives you some fresh answers.
Absolutely. Love it. When in doubt, try it out. He can rhyme and he can build flows. This was great. Thank you very much, guys, and hope this is helpful. If you have any questions, feel free to ask CoBuilder. Feel free to ask our team here at Parabola, and thanks for checking this out. Have a good one.